Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the AdExchanger webinar with AI Digital Beyond the Roadmap, what agencies that ship AI actually do differently. We're in the age of AI, and for many companies, it's becoming a default ingredient in just about every part of their workflow. The question is whether it's meaningfully improving this process. When it comes to AI, every agency says they're all in, but most are still stuck in experimentation purgatory, roadmaps, pilots, and case studies that never quite make it to the day-to-day work. At the same time, AI is starting to show up as a line in RFPs and is testing whether agencies have more than a talking point. Today's webinar is about closing that gap. To help lead the conversation, we have David Mainiero, Chief AI Officer and General Counsel at AI Digital, Boris Kulakhmetov, Head of AI Digital Lab Incubator, and Jim Lurie, Co-founder of O2KL. Thank you guys for joining us. There will also be a Q&A portion for the webinar. So for the attendees, make sure as they talk, if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A chat and we'll address them a little while later. And now I'll let you guys take it off.
Thanks, Andrew, and thanks to everyone for joining us today. I'm David Mainiero. I'm the Chief AI Officer at AI Digital, and I run AI Digital Labs, which is our dedicated AI transformation practice. Today's session is called Beyond the Roadmap, and the premise is pretty simple. Most agencies have an AI roadmap, even if it's not written down, but very few are actually shipping AI. We're going to spend the next 45 minutes or so on what that gap between the two looks like, what's on the other side of it, and what it actually takes to cross it. Just quick intros beyond what Andrew did, so you know who you're hearing from. We'll do some more proper introduction and context when we get to the panel component. But Boris runs the incubator at AI Digital Labs and is coding up a storm, probably right now on 3 other windows, doing parallel coding tasks while he presents. Boris came to us from McKinsey and Publicis. So he's seen transformation on the consulting side, the holding company kind of scoping side, and now on the build side. And he's going to show 3 production tools that his incubator has shipped in the last few weeks that are running in real client engagements right now. Jim Lurie is the co-founder of O2KL, which is an integrated performance agency out of New York. O2KL is one of the agencies actually in the leadership cohort that we're going to talk about. Jim has been leaning on AI, not just as kind of a side project, but as a key to how the firm competes. They just launched a really cool product named Live Lead, which I know he's likely going to mention. Putting real stakes in the game is some of what Jim's going to talk about. So quick roadmap to what the next 40 minutes or so looks like. I'm going to spend about 5, maybe 7 minutes on the data. What we found in our adoption survey when we surveyed over 100 agencies and brands a couple of months ago, and the framework from our white papers that resulted from that, which we'll be happy to share. And then Boris is going to spend about 10 minutes showing you tools running in live engagements, and then we'll move to a moderated panel and open discussion for about 15 minutes, where hopefully the real stories and some of the works come out, and then we'll close with the audience Q&A. So feel free to drop your questions in the chat throughout, and we'll get to as many as we can. So before the data, I just want to share a high-level view of kind of what we hear in the market every week, because that's where our diagnosis starts. That's where the impetus for AI Digital Labs came from. And so this is how the conversation goes with most agencies, and frankly, most companies. And this is the conversation that's been had at the leadership level, the board level, the CEO. Usually it looks something like the CEO or the board having an epiphany moment and kind of turning to the rest of the team and saying, we need AI. And the rest of the room saying, okay, we agree, but AI to do what? And the CEO or the board says, oh, I don't know yet, but we need it. And they say, oh, all right, when? Right now. Right now is when we need it. So it's this idea that everyone wants AI, but very few know what they actually need. And more importantly, if they do know that, they don't quite know how to get there. And that's the gap that AI Digital Labs exists in. A transformation practice driving across awareness, adoption, and advantage. And kind of some of the validation for this is that you see some of the leading research labs in the country doing this for big businesses. You have hundreds and millions, if not billions of dollars going into OpenAI's Frontier Alliances and Anthropic's Claude Partner Network, which are organizations devoted to this same idea of helping people adopt AI. Now, the research labs do it because they want people to spend more money on AI tokens. That's not exactly why we're doing it. We don't sell AI tokens. But the idea is they're forward deploying AI engineers into the Fortune 100 and 500 and trying to help them figure it out. But almost nobody is doing that for the rest of us. So that's the gap that Labs is built to solve these real business problems, whether you think of them through the lens of AI or not. And so we think of it across three tracks. The first is AI strategy and advisory, aligning the C-suite on ambition, on risk, on investment. The second is training and upskilling, boot camps and AI fluency programs, actual hands-on interactive AI training so that people understand and can be empowered by it. And then finally, forward deployed AI engineering, custom agents, tool builds that are shipped in days and running in production. So the strategy informs the training thereby unlocks the build, and each track feeds the next, and capability compounds. So that's our model. The question is, how many agencies are actually building this kind of capability? And that's where our data comes in. So we've surveyed about, like I said, 100 agencies and brands with operational questions, not vanity questions. And here's a high-level summary of what we found. So if you take the quote, drafting a roadmap and the ad hoc experimentation phases together, that's 2/3 of the field. So about 66% are stuck in what we call pilot or experimentation purgatory. Roadmaps, pilots, signing up for a bunch of SaaS subscriptions, but nothing fully embedded and no success metrics to figure out whether or not those pilots are actually successful. And the key stat I see is that only 16% of agencies and brands have AI embedded across their teams with KPIs to measure them and see what's successful, and then battle-tested stories or case studies to tell clients. That's what we consider kind of the leadership cohort. So the gap between those two groups isn't just about doing, it's about being able to talk about it. And agencies know this matters. They just can't always say why they matter. So the two numbers that stuck out to me to hold side by side are, we asked agencies how critical AI is to their future. The average answer was about an 8.1 out of 10. And we asked how confident they feel articulating their AI story to a client. The average answer there was about a 5.9. That seems like a small gap, but with that level of conviction on the left and the answer you see on the right, it just doesn't quite line up. And we see about 84% of agencies cannot articulate the unique AI story. They say things when asked in RFPs like, we use it to drive efficiency and productivity and better outcomes for our clients. But there's not much substance behind that. 57% told us we have talking points, but nothing unique. That's not a marketing problem. That's a substance problem. These are all marketers to begin with. And you can't market something that you haven't built or even thought about yet. So most leaders look at this and they see or assume the barrier is budget or technology, and it's thankfully not. 61% say it's a skills gap. 52% say they're too busy with daily client work. This is what we call the side project trap. And 46% don't measure AI's impact at all. And then finally, 30% have zero data policies in place. So this is a leadership and a prioritization problem, as I see it, not a technology problem. Technology is falling out of the sky into our laps at a pace we can't keep up with. And while agencies are stuck on that, they're receiving RFPs and having conversations about SOWs with kind of AI savings lines built into their billable hours as an expected discount line. So efficiency is becoming table stakes as a client expectation, not an agency advantage. That doesn't mean you shouldn't be focused on efficiency, but it means you need to go well beyond that. And the longer that agencies wait to address this, the more the math turns against them. So that gulf between agencies leaning in right now and agencies waiting is somewhat invisible. You can't quite tell who's serious. 6 months from now is kind of when it starts to emerge. A year out is when it becomes unmistakable. And then by 18 months, it's a chasm. So really the clock is running on this, and the leaders right now are pulling away in silence. If you think of them as kind of parallel train tracks, the top is sloped a little bit more. It's just going to turn into an S curve at some point. We don't know where the plateau is, but we know that kind of asymptotic rise is starting to come. And for me, the painful part is that most agencies aren't waiting for strategic reasons. It's not necessarily ROI. You see that's kind of one of the reasons here, but they're waiting because they've talked themselves out of starting. So these are kind of the 5 excuses we hear the most, or justifications, and why, in our opinion, each of them is expired. So people talk about, we can't use AI because of client confidentiality. 30% have no policies in place. Enterprise safe, non-training models exist. The biggest banks and healthcare companies in the world have figured this out. I've worked with many of them in my former role as part of a legal AI collective to help them develop these types of policies. And I can tell you, this was a problem, for a few months for some of the biggest companies in the world. But the ones that are serious about AI, because of that board and CEO mandate we talked about at the top, they've figured this out and not let kind of legal be the department of no on this. We're too busy with client work. I totally get it. I fall victim to this quite a bit, but you can't be too busy rowing the boat to notice that your boat has a motor. And every month that you kind of wait, it adds to this catch-up tax that we talked about. We can't justify investment without clear ROI. Well, 46% we told you aren't measuring AI's impact at all. So you can't see what you're not looking for. But then we see stats like 91% of kind of SMBs using AI report revenue lift. So those things don't square with what we see out in the market. And frankly, the I here, the R is what does all the work, because the investment is something like $20, $40 a month for certain subscriptions scaled across certain team members. And if we came to you 5 years ago and we said, hey, you have a super intelligence that can work while you sleep, or on Boris's other screen right now coding for him, and it's only $30 a month or $100 a month, you'd say, I don't believe you. But now the question is, I don't quite know if we should, upgrade that person to premium. And I get it. You don't want to just like throw out a bunch of AI subscriptions, not knowing people who use them, but there are solutions to that as well. Our clients value human creativity. Clients are already asking about this in AI pitches, and I don't mean to kind of cast aspersions on that statement, but in 99% of cases, this is opportunity masquerading as an objection, because there's plenty of ways to address this. We'll move when the tech matures. The tech's compounding exponentially while we're waiting linearly, and now is when the best practices are established and really written. So whether you pick, I know that I have used these excuses or justifications to go slower sometimes myself. I try to remind myself every time that I should not. I encourage you to kind of pick whichever justification feels most true for your organization, or maybe more than one, and then run a week-long test designed to prove it wrong. I think you'll be surprised with the results. So that's the diagnosis. Now, what does the other side of the gap that we talked about look like? Boris is going to show you. So Boris builds 3 or 4 of these tools every week. It's a remarkable pace. It's the idea that instead of letting our ideas live in a spreadsheet that keeps getting longer or longer and having hours and hours of scoping conversations, he takes those few hours of scoping and just builds a prototype. And that turns into real use cases and real products that he's going to show you. So Boris, why don't you take it from here?
Let me share my screen. I'm going to show you 3 tools today. And as with any tool, the biggest question is how it appeared. What are we going to do? So let me start with our first tool. Imagine you want to launch a $1 million campaign. You need to launch it in a week. How do you test your creatives? Are they good enough? So this tool, Synthetic Focus Group, let me launch it, and I'll explain while we wait. So as you can see, you can upload the creative.
I
And
can't see anything, Boris. I don't know if that mine says loading. Can anyone else see?
It's loading.
can you see my screen?
It shows loading. But I can say we've used this product and it works really well.
Yeah. So a webinar issue, not a tool issue.
I do see the screen. Oh, thank you. So let's launch it. You can actually talk to the tool and ask, okay, is this creative good for Northeast US?
We're still not seeing it. Sorry.
Yeah, maybe unshare your screen and then reshare or something and see if that resets it.
Can you see it now?
It's still the
Just
loading.
says loading.
Oh, attendees can see the screen. That's good. So you can actually see what personas it proposes. You can type in your personas. You can discuss it. Let's default for now. And the tool launches. So what the tool does, it creates synthetic agents based on this persona. So imagine an AI that is impersonating this persona. So 3 of them. And it shows this specific creative we want to analyze to those personas, asks questions, and measures impact. So it runs 2 to 3 minutes, and we can switch to the one that I just completed. So how the tool actually looks like. It does not only measure it with scores, it provides a narrative why this creative is good or not. It gives you an idea what you can change to regarding this creative as an agency to make it work. So something that originally you needed to pay a lot of money for to get the actual focus group, this tool provides almost the same quality of analysis. So you don't need to wait. You can run it in 3 minutes and get the actual impact, actual action plan, what to do with those creatives. So how this idea came up, we needed to literally launch a campaign. I'm looking at the processes. I see an opportunity, and I build a prototype. Everybody likes the prototype. Then I can actually build the tool. And when you ask your development teams or your partners, they give you a response. Oh, this will be 3 months. Don't take 3 months as an answer. That's a very important thing. Every AI tool right now, every tool, even if it's not AI, but built with AI, can be prototyped almost immediately nowadays. So let's look at the other tool. This is an AI search optimization tool. What it does, you wondered how your client's brand represented at all the AI agents, AI services. Let's say ChatGPT or Gemini. Does it recommend your brand versus the other brands? How would you measure it? So The past of search optimization was keywords. It was looking for what person types when they search. Now it's a conversation with AI. So we are building awareness with AI models. In this case, how we can know if we've done it. So let's try it. I'll type in one of my favorite products. And it asks, okay, where you can narrow it down to geography, you can narrow down it to profiles. Let's, for now, default it. And you can actually see what it does. First, it generates, I set to 50 queries. So every engine will receive 50 queries. Then they are synthesized, all those queries are synthesized into per engine report. Then the overall executive summary is built. So you know how you are looking at the engines. Let's wait a couple of moments to show how it actually works. So you can see right now it's processing the query generation. Now you can see the engines is going to run and the actual query is being run. Again,
and Boris, can you describe what it's doing when it's like running a query? Like what is it? Just talking to one model? Like what's going on?
Oh, how it works. So each query represents a valid question to the engine. Let's say, what soft drink is good for this party, or what soft drink will go with better with fries, or what usually is it safe to drink that soft drink or that soft drink. Therefore, every query is unique. Then it launches against a certain engine. So as you can see here, for example, Gemini Pro. That means that this query, each query is launched in a dialogue with Gemini. And the response is a ranked list or a mention of a product that can then be fed back into the orchestrator model that looks at all the responses and can say, okay, those engines do know me or they do not know me. And we are almost there. Let me quickly switch to already prepared one. We can switch back to, I'll show you that it actually works. So,
and the reason it takes so long, Boris, is that it's running something like 50 actual questions. It's almost like it opened 50 Google searches, but for Claude, for Gemini, for ChatGPT, for Google AI, for all the different ones that you search for Grok, and it's querying each of those and then putting it all together
in a visualized executive summary report, where you can look at first like the whole conclusion, what engine knows more about you, what engine knows less about you. Then you can look at the difference between those queries that were run. So direct query, buyer asks specific question about the brand, or a discovery question, oh, what soft drinks are there? Or a sentiment, what's the good soft drink for that? So every query is somewhat different to create a whole picture. Then it goes into what's the share of model and what model knows you better and not, and what model knows you less. And it also compares models that have direct ability to search the web or versus models that are pre-trained. So they don't have recent data. That way they can only see what been there, let's say 6 months ago. That is very important when you try to measure your effort going forward when you're building awareness with AI engines. And of course, it provides direct quotes. We can see, Claude recommends traditional brands like Diet Coke and Coca-Cola Zero here. So you can see actual queries and an action plan, what you can do to lift AI visibility. You can run it with any brand and see, it's already built here. Quite fast. Very well. So that's AI optimization. Let's move forward with the next tool. Now we want to know, okay, what about my landing page? How can I be sure that client that goes through my ad will actually get to the right experience and will be successful at checkout? So let's run it here. I just give it a website, a link, and it kicks off.
And so what's the purpose of this one, Boris?
The purpose of this one is, let me switch to the completed one. So the whole purpose of this report is to understand if the website actually, or landing page, is ready to support your ad campaign. It looks at three big pieces here. First, how it's built for conversion. What's the user experience there? It looks at the layout of the page. What are the call to action there? Can you actually check out there, and scores it? Then it looks at your technical part of the website, something you as a person just looking at the website would not be able to see. So are they all the measurement infrastructure is there? What is its current SEO part? Is it good enough? And it uses not only generative AI models or engines, it uses a wide variety of other API tools that feed the data to the model to make those decisions. And then it looks at the accessibility of the page. So is it compliant with the current legislation? Is it compliant with the data policy or privacy policy, and so on? That way, you can make sure that your ad campaign is ready to land there. And again, you can see action plan, proposed action plan with the scored value and impact of every action it suggests.
Great. These are really cool, Boris. And I understand there are different ways in which they can be orchestrated together as part of a pre-optimization suite before you run media, and that there are a lot of different use cases for particularly how they fit together. I know you have about 15 more of these in your back pocket, but excited to see what you build next week. This is very, very cool. And one point is, for instance, AI Digital is not, we don't build websites for people. This is purely a value add for our agency clients to be able to help them understand how can we, or for brands directly, how can we build something that helps our clients? And how can we build something that maybe you can go out there and buy a tech subscription for, a $20 a month tool, but it doesn't exactly fit the way you want to do things and your house view. And frankly, there are a limit to how many $20 a month subscriptions you could get for every possible thing under the sun. So very interesting, Boris. I know that, thinking about, I like to say that most people don't need another SaaS login. They need a partner. And that's what we try to provide. And they're kind of, this is not unique to AI Digital, but this is how we view the world, is that you need to follow a 2-track model. You need to give the CEO, the board what they want, the clients what they want. They need their impact delivery. They need the ability to get their AI now, and that's what the incubator and the is intended to deliver, and that's what AI Digital's media business is intended to deliver, is to build the proprietary research and strategy and analytics and execution powered by our agentic tools and our deep bench of experienced talent, but also use AI Digital Labs to build capability over time, to bring your people along for the journey, to make sure they have the skills to work in this kind of new AI future, to make sure leadership is aligned with the way that they might develop a new competitive edge in the future, and they might allocate AI investment and think about building versus buying. So that's how we think about things. It's like the slow and boring way you can't cast aside. You have to do it. It is slow. Sometimes it is boring. I happen to find it exciting. But you also need results now. And so solutions that orient you toward that, whether they're with us or someone else, those are what's going to carry the day. So I want to get into some of the real world experience now and the real conversation about what this looks like from inside the room from the people that are actually living it. So I want to start with you, Jim. Can you give us kind of a 60 seconds on O2KL and your role there? And specifically kind of thinking about it, at what point did we should probably be doing something about AI become, this is how we're going to compete, this is the future? What was the trigger for you?
Sure. Well, I'm Jim Lurie. I'm one of the co-founders and partners of O2KL. We were celebrating our 22nd anniversary actually this week. So we've seen a few changes in the industry, but this one's kind of feels different, right? As everyone knows. We have a special focus on considered purchase, healthcare, financial services. Decisions are longer, they're bigger, they tend to be bigger stakes in what people are buying. So what we do, we have long-term clients. We build trust and help people make decisions, not just drive a quick, should I buy this candy bar or not? The stakes are generally bigger. When did we decide? It's a good question, but it really wasn't one moment. It was realizing, since people have seen changes, they know the world's changing. Our business was changing. So David, what you were talking about earlier, you're either in it or you're not in it. So we knew we had to do it. So it wasn't something it wasn't optional for us. It's how we stay competitive. It's how we help lead clients. At the same time, we have a lot of institutional knowledge that we bring. So it was, how do we combine that, what we know, what we do really bad, and use AI as a tool? So it wasn't just replacing, it was augmenting and making the experience more actionable, faster, better. David, you spoke earlier. How do you do it? There's big organizations that put millions and billions of dollars into this. We're a smaller agency, and I think that helped because it got rid of the bureaucracy. We could test and learn and do it responsibly. You talked about those guardrails. We made sure we had guardrails. We have healthcare clients, financial clients, so we had to make sure we had those guardrails built in. And what we've learned is whatever's right today is probably going to change tomorrow. So don't stress it too much, right? Because you're going to have tools, you're going to have subscriptions, you're going to do those things. It's going to change, but get in it and just do it, and you'll keep getting better. And you got to bring your team along.
It's really interesting. The last part of what you said is, the tools are changing so fast that don't get locked in, but also it's interesting the take you have on that. The flip side I see quite often, which is the tools are moving so fast, so why don't I just sit on my hands here? And I'm curious how you kind of get through that.
Well, so at first we had a committee. We were looking at everything, probably like a lot of other people do. It was, well, should we do this one? And by the time you made a decision, they've changed. So you empower people. If someone sees something they like, if they see a tool they like that works, let them do it. And then it gets ingrained within the agency. So it's got to become a part of your culture. So if you try it and it works for a month, it works for 2, but there's something better, and there will be something better in 2-3 months, it's okay. You can change. You don't have to stay with your original roadmap. It was just what we see in the market.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I say a lot that you can have a roadmap, but the road's going to change, the terrain's going to change under your feet, and you got to be ready for it with the right principles. And I guess that transitions, Boris, your perspective on, you came to AI Digital from McKinsey and Publicis, two very different vantage points on the market altogether. What did you see? I mean, obviously you've worked at kind of the Fortune 500 level, the people spending millions of dollars on consultants and developers. What did you see, kind of dovetailing with Jim's point that like he can move in a more agile or nimble fashion? What did you see about how work gets done there that made you want to build Incubator the way that you have now?
One biggest barrier I see with AI everywhere, I've seen with AI everywhere before, is red tape. So every time you want to start actually building something, there will be a gate that tells you, no, let's do the research first. No, let's do the proper build first, and so on and so forth. So the biggest unlock, and what I truly wanted to do, and why I started the incubator, is to actually build tools right now, right here. And while the approach is similar to McKinsey engagement, you hypothesize, you check the data, you understand what they actually will unlock the improvement of a process with a client, but you don't wait or build a whole strategy around. You just build it as part of the first answer. That's how we worked with Jim. We talked about it, and in a few days, I had a prototype to test.
It's interesting. So that's sort of one way we look at it. We're not looking for the software, right? We're looking for solutions to problems. And then you go find the solution to that problem. And there may be, like I said, you try something. It may not be the perfect one, but then you go try it again, right? You try another one. But, as an agency owner, we're not a software developer. We solve marketing problems. So we know the problems we're trying to solve, how we get better, how we get faster, how we deliver KPIs. That's what people want. So then you find the solutions and you try it. You try it with guardrails and people, right? You just don't let it go free.
Yes. And with any development there, the biggest skill you need to have is actually problem solving. You need to understand what are you solving for, and not sticking with your backlog in for months to go with no actual feedback.
Yeah. So
go ahead. Sorry,
Jim. I wanted to take you to live lead a little bit, which I know is something you've been working on with Boris. What problem were you solving for there, and more importantly, like what made you decide to kind of put together a solution like this rather than just think about an internal capability? Most people don't take the leap of, because I'm sure the problem did not, present itself to you as someone needs an AI voice agent. So I'm curious how, when I have these conversations with a lot of brands or with agencies, and I say, well, what are you thinking for AI? What do you want AI to do for you? They default to like an efficiency framework, like, oh, it would be great if it could like do our reimbursements faster or our invoice processing. And that's okay. That's low hanging fruit sometimes, but how do you reframe yourself to think about solving a client problem? I know that's kind of your mindset already, but how did that come about with the Live Lead product? And tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, sure. So if there's ad agencies on here, if there's marketing people, they've heard this problem before. So we generate leads, right? We do clicks, we get people visiting the website. But again, we're sort of in the considered purchase. So financial services, sort of bigger ticket items. So you pass, so someone fills out a form and gets to a salesperson, or they leave the website, right? So there's convergence, but you have metrics, right? We had this many clicks or whatever. At the end of the day, who cares, right? Salespeople want leads. They want real leads. So we started with, how do we improve upon the leads that we're getting the salespeople, the sales teams? How do we get them deeper into the funnel? So it was, let's capture better information, but let's make it easier so people don't have to do the work. So that was the problem. It's how do we improve the quality of our leads that salespeople are following up with or closing? So what we determined was, we wanted, instead of sending someone to a landing page, we wanted to create like a real-time voice interaction that answers questions, that understands intent, that qualifies the leads before they reach sales, right? So live lead voice turns things like a direct mail piece, could be a billboard, could be a website. We're talking to people about putting it on their website, into a live two-way sales conversation. So it takes the ease out of it. You don't have to type. It's in a gated community, so we're only serving up information that we know we can serve up. It's not going out to the whole web. And it's also not making key recommendations. So we put rules around it, meaning it's not going to tell you where to invest. That's what our salespeople do, right? It's not going to give you health information. It's not going to tell you what insurance plan to sign up for, but it's going to guide you so it answers all your questions. And frankly, it's a lot less intimidating. And it does a really good, really good job. It understands the people, asks questions, it captures the information and passes it along. So it's not a manual process. It's not a hard process. And we're just beta testing it now, but we see so much response for it. There's a big need for it. And our hypothesis is, from what we've seen, are people are going to give it the information, get the answers they want, free up salespeople time to actually close sales. So it's just going to be much more efficient. And the testing we've done on it, just people love using it. The team has done a really good job making it authentic, so it doesn't seem like you're talking to AI, answers questions, asks you questions. So it's more of a two-way dialogue. So it's not just clicks, it's part of a sales process, which is more valuable.
Yeah, that's interesting, because marketing is, if you think of like marketing qualified leads to sales qualified leads and all the metrics and KPIs that build into that. But ultimately, you're speaking to some of the convergence between marketing and sales and trying to grab a little bit of the sales process, which ultimately clients hold you responsible if they're not selling. They hold you responsible downstream. So why not, jump into the fray a little bit? I want to push us to, and this is a question for both of you, whoever wants to answer. We talked about the survey data, and it was about 52% of agencies saying, we're too busy with daily work to kind of deal with this AI transformation. Both of you have shipped real things, running real businesses. How? Like, what's the actual mechanic for breaking out of that trap and making sure that it's like a focus for you when you obviously have client calls and full schedules and other things to do?
David, when you shared that information earlier, the number just seems high to me. Like, everyone needs to be embracing AI. I mean, it's clearly there. The number did seem high. The shift was treating, it's a tool. It's not a project. It helps you get your work done better. So instead of adding work, we asked, where can we improve what we're doing? It's not extra time. It's a different way of working. And if you really want to win, it's part of the way you're going to do business. One of our tagline is play to win. So it's an expectation that you have to start, you have to do it, you have to figure it out. Like you said, if there's some who aren't doing it now, you need to start soon.
Yeah, it's like someone put LeBron James on your team and you're just going to sit him on the bench. So they can't be doing that.
Yeah.
And that strikes me as, I used to say this and still do about AI, is like, it's not a side project. It's not this side transformation. It is your work. It is your core work. And so if you make it like a nice to have of, transforming our invoice processing or something, you'll feel like that. It's going to feel like extra work. But if you lean in with stakes on something that really matters, that you need AI to deliver, that's going to kind of grease the skids towards more and more of that. And it's not going to feel like something on the.
And to your point earlier, if your business is tied to KPIs and it improves your KPIs, it makes your job way easier. The downside is you may have some people in your organization who said, I've been doing it this way. You got to fix that. Sometimes it's really hard, but you got to fix that. It's just where the world is going.
And Jim, I would want to second on that. The people part is very important here. And who knows more about what actually is happening than the people who actually do the work? And this is a message for me to every executive there. Think about this additional work as something that you need to invest with people. For example, run a hackathon. We just ran a hackathon in AI Digital. And I received so many new ideas that I can build upon. That is insurmountable. So give your teams time, build time, actual time, not a side project, not a 1 hour in a month, actual time to try those tools, and they will change the way they work right away.
Yeah, but you do have to be fair, right? So part of it was giving them the tools. So you were asking about how did you decide which tools? So sometimes you go to certain people and recommend tools. Here, start with this. Here's the training. Make sure they have the resources, because the reality is, I commute on a train or whatever, but you can learn while you're commuting. You can learn when you're just, sitting in front of a TV or whatever. So you can learn. You need people who are going to do that. I see Scott put a comment in here. There's virtually no, financial lift or liability. There is liability. You need to be careful what you're doing, because there are guardrails depending on who you're working with. So we do have clients that we tell them what we're doing AI with, because they need to know. It's part of MSAs. It's part of contracts now too. Just let them know. So there is some liability where you need the human aspect just to check the AI.
Yeah, and that's interesting. One of the biggest, it was one of the biggest banks in the world. They're kind of what they settled on for their AI governance policy. Basically, they'd still go through approvals for information security, data, the same thing they would do for any SaaS tool. But when it involves AI, their rule is simply use whatever tool you want, as long as they're like SOC 2 compliant or whatever their standards are for approval. The only rule is human in the loop, which is you own the you own the work product. You can't, be like these lawyers who are sending briefs to the court and, hallucinating all their sites that you see, all these apology letters going to courts, and, people putting their, pasting their ChatGPT response in, and it still has the horizontal line, and please let me know if you'd like this in a different tone at the bottom. It's just lazy. It did all the work for you. You couldn't be bothered to check it after you copy and paste. You still,
Right.
it is a co-pilot. It is not autopilot, although increasingly I give to really just beat my dead horse of plane analogies. It's like kind of is autopilot. You just need to take off and land the plane. And that's how autopilot works on planes right now.
Yeah.
So I do want to have time for the Q&A, and I want to leave you both with this kind of lightning round of finishing this sentence. Boris, I'll ask you first. The agencies that win the next 18 months will be the ones that figured out how to blank.
How to embrace AI at the actual processes, how to change the processes themselves, not just try AI.
So you're rebuilding process, not trying to fit existing process to a new way of working, but actually interrogating the process to rebuild.
Precisely.
Okay.
Yeah, it would be fairly similar. It's those who just make it part of what they do. It's like, everyone uses a Mac, right? It's just use it. It should be part of your system. It should be part of your workflows.
Yeah, and I think there are a few key tips for that too. Like I can't show, maybe I can show it. I have a mic, and it's not because I'm a podcaster. It's because my Mac Mini is too far away, and when I try to dictate to AI, it wasn't catching everything I say. That's how much I'm using my microphone now. I barely use my keyboard. I'm giving so many commands to my voice AI. And in order to do that, my first step was I had to have it up on a separate screen. I have multiple AI platforms up on my separate screen, and I'm going to them at all times to try different things. Sometimes it's not useful, but I'm inviting it to the table for the work that I'm doing. And sometimes I'm not happy. Sometimes I'm very pleasantly surprised and I learn something new. I think really trying to lean in with stakes, invite it to the table for what you are trying is really, really important. And I guess my answer to the question would be the agencies that win the next 18 months will be the ones that figure out. And I'd answer with just rolling up my sleeves. It's like, just do it. Get in there and do something. Don't talk about it. Build it. Write it down. Go pitch it. That doesn't mean there are no guardrails and all those things we talked about, but just do it. And I'll give my obligatory credit to Nike for stealing their tagline there.
And to do that, you have to make sure what works. Yes, you need the human in the loop, determine what works, what doesn't work. And most of it's going to be driven by KPIs anyway. So where do you see the improvements in what you're doing?
Yeah, makes sense. So let's shift to the Q&A for the next 10 minutes. Let's see.
Yes. Hello, everyone. We're about to hop off to the Q&A portion of the webinar. But before we do that, I wanted to mention, I know Dave said at the beginning, there are some white papers that they worked on and you guys have access to that. So make sure you have access to that. So after the webinar, you can get access to them as well and kind of read further into the information that we're talking about. And I did see we had like a couple of questions from the audience. First, I'm going to go with Heidi O. I love that name. Thank you for joining us for the webinar. And I think this was more tied towards Boris showing his query demo. She asks, don't you need contracts with ChatGPT and Claude to query the data that you were talking about?
Yes, but the contract nowadays looks as you go on the website, register, and get an API key. Here's your contract. That's the only thing you need to actually use the model.
Has it become easier to get these contracts just because it's become more common for people to use these tools? Or
yeah, it's a common way to use almost every tool out there. And what AI engines are winning are the ones that can use those tools, that can go and access the other platform to get the information from there. For example, my website audit tool, yes, it runs on Gemini as an engine, but it goes and asks another tool that is not AI. It just scans the website and gets information from there. So everything is connected through API. You don't need long, big contract to actually start and testing it.
Yeah, absolutely. And before I get to the next audience question, I just kind of have my own personal follow-up. I've talked to a lot of different publishers, agencies who are kind of using different search query AI tools, some who are using Claude, some are using ChatGPT. Have you found that there are certain interfaces that work better for certain tasks that you're doing? Like, does Claude work better for other things than ChatGPT work better for other things? Like, have you seen that, or is it not?
Yeah, I think we see that. I think it's personal of what, it's the same. It's kind of like a personality question. And it's interesting, like Anthropic has spent a lot of resources on the personality of Claude. And that tends to be why people like speaking to Claude a lot. And so it doesn't strike me as odd that a lot of people think that Claude is better for writing and creativity, and particularly creative writing and scripting and marketing collateral. So that's often a function of it kind of nailing human personality a little bit better. And, ChatGPT is definitely improved in this respect. It used to be that it felt a little kind of machine-like, but they've kind of invested in the personality of GPT 5.5. So it's really, I think it's a matter of personal preference. There are certain AIs that are better at calling tools right now, which means calling web search, calling, a Python scripter, coding, cropping an image, using memory better. But I think ultimately those will all converge to a similar place.
Yeah, absolutely. And on to our next audience question from Tanya Onokina. Hopefully I pronounced that correctly. Regarding focus group tools, what about cultural differences between different regions? How can you ensure that the LLM understands and properly interprets them?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. And I can also reflect my other tool, which looks at exactly how people think and looks at the images from perspective of how brain processes those images. It's actually all built into prompt engineered prompt within the tool. So it looks at the geography, it looks at your personas, and it creates personas based on cultural interpretation of the group. Yes, there's a certain risk of bias there that you need to take into account, but that works with any living focus group as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we kind of talked about this a little more broadly towards the beginning of the conversation, especially starting to think about how agencies start to actually adopt AI. So where would you recommend an agency start if they want to adopt AI but aren't sure which project to tackle first? Like, is it based upon like what your clients are asking for? What do you think you need improvement on in your own internal stack? Like, how are you kind of thinking about that?
I don't even have to think. You don't need to overthink it. It's your next project. Start somewhere, because you'll overthink and should I do this? Your next project is going to have creative, it's going to have strategy, it's going to have something. Try it there.
Absolutely.
And that doesn't mean AI needs to do the whole thing for you. That means that you just adopt, like, no matter what it is, you can have it kind of brainstorm for you, and maybe you have a way you're thinking about approaching the project, and you tell AI what you're thinking. You say, attack my ideas, kind of give me a red team memo, give me 10 more, refine it. I love asking AI things like that, because they're things that my human colleagues would scream at me if I did. It's like, Boris, great idea. How about 100 more? He's like, I'll give you 50, but 100's pushing it. And that's just the way of interacting with AI. And I do that, and I get like an embarrassment of riches of answers. And I say, all right, I scroll through it. I like number 1, 7, and 15, but here's what I don't really like about any of them, and you haven't solved 4 yet. And I do this all literally like this through voice. I like to say a lot that I do it while I'm walking my dogs, because I do. And it just like kind of blowing hot air into my phone, and I come back and there's well-formed ideas sitting on my desktop. And that doesn't mean I don't, continue to wrestle with them and build on them my own. Same thing with finished work product. You come back to it. You do the same thing. You ask it to find any gaps for you, things you didn't think about. If you're building creative and you're thinking of concepts, build the first few videos or images, ask for 10 different versions of it, put in inspiration of styles you saw that you liked. There's so many possibilities, and to not use this is like having a room of 100 extremely talented people sitting in your room, staring at you all day, just waiting for assignments. And you're like, all right, you guys just sit on your hands, twiddle your thumbs for the rest of the day. It would feel very silly, but that's kind of the reality if you're not doing it.
Yeah. And don't stop prompting it. Ask it questions, dig deeper. And you can even ask questions like, how should I prompt you better? And it'll help you get those answers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know we're coming down to a couple minutes on time, and I might kind of steal David's idea to kind of give like a lightning round answer for the final question for the audience. For any of the AI skeptics who are kind of skeptical of using AI for any of their marketing tools, what kind of quick final takeaway advice would you give them?
Stop. It depends on what the reason for skepticism is, but I would say you got to get on board with this. I've said this before. Showing up to a job interview in 2 years with saying you're not literate with AI tools is going to be like showing up and saying, this is a great fit for me, but I don't use Excel, PowerPoint, Word, Gmail, or Outlook. When can I start? And the answer is going to be you can't.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know we're running on time, but I did see one more audience question pop up that I'm going to take on from Jan Galimis. How could we use AI to conquest for new business?
Jim, I know you're doing this every day, so I'm going to give.
Well, we have a different model. We usually get our business word of mouth. We don't really pitch a whole lot, so it's a little different from us. But you certainly can get referrals. You can ask it who's in this business, who to connect with, who is the decision makers of any type of company. Narrow it down. You can put it into a type of business, a location, and it will get you that information, even contact information. It'll even write you emails, right? It'll help you write an introductory email based on what you do and what you do really well.
Yeah, let it do the research for you too. Like if you figure out you've built a great product, but you can only sell to Subways and Jimmy John's locally, go use an AI tool to figure out the names of all of them, the numbers, the contact people, have it look on LinkedIn, pull it all together for you, draft an email like you said, like Jim said, let it do everything for you. You don't need some big business development staff to do it. But I would also build something, solve their problem first, use kind of the freemium model and send something out. We do this a lot with our incubator tools. Send them an AI search optimization report, tell them how you could help them and build a business around that. There are a lot of different problems to solve, and AI helps you both identify them and solve them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great place to end it. Thank you guys for hosting this great webinar, and thank you everyone for joining us. We really appreciate it. Before I let you go, I'll have to say, AdExchanger, we have our programmatic AI conference from May 18th to the 20th with AI Digital. Be a part. So if you want to hear more from them, definitely join us there. Thank you again for joining us, and I hope everyone enjoys the rest of their day.
We'll see you there. Thanks, everybody.
I know.
Thank you.